It's time to drive into the sunset, says Swervin. Oof, man, I like your style. It might be time to drive in the sunset, champs.
If you are someone that is even relatively familiar with content creation online, especially in the world of video games, you have probably seen or heard the name Dr. Disrespect before. The 6'8" frame, the 37-inch vertical leap, the black steel that drips down his back, the bulletproof mullet, the Google prototype scopes from built-in LCD, LED 1080p 3D Sony technology, the Ethiopian poisonous caterpillar, aka the Slick Daddy. Everyone knows who Dr. Disrespect is. Sporting his tactical red vest, he has had sponsorships from places like Gillette and has done major cameos, even in commercials from places like Call of Duty, from his own brand of bourbon to cameos in the UFC, content creation with the San Francisco 49ers. It seemed as though Guy Beam, the creator of Dr. Disrespect and the man behind the persona, kind of had it all. But it is not without its share of pitfalls. Throughout his time in content creation between Twitch and in YouTube, he's run into a series of snafus, and the most recent one is kind of a doozy for a lot of different reasons, if it's true. Now, over his course of time at Twitch, he was banned from Twitch 7 separate times, with the most egregious one where he took a cameraman into a public bathroom in California. Highly illegal thing to do. Not to mention the major media debacle that was him having cheated on his wife and it being made incredibly public. But this most recent issue seems to strike at the core of both Dr. Disrespect and his own morality, as he's publicly stated in the past. And that is that he allegedly sexted a minor. Pedophilia. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Onepeg. If you end up enjoying this content, please consider subbing the channel. It really does matter. As always, I'm live at twitch.tv/Onepeg every day around 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anyway, before I continue with this, I want to make sure that everyone understands that I'm not picking a side, because this is a hot button issue, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm leaning toward one way or another. Dr. Disrespect is a very well-regarded content creator that has had his share of bumps along the way. It seems as though in the desire to push content, he's kind of push the envelope at the same time. And it's gotten him in some hot water in the past. And like any other human, he's tended to make some of his own mistakes, both publicly and privately. Then again, though, I would say that a lot of times this kind of stuff ends up being part of human nature. And there are plenty of people that cheat on their spouse, like he had done. And he, I think, has tried to offer up all of the mea culpa that he possibly could for it. I'm not necessarily giving him a pass, but consider that if it was relatively any other entertainer in the world, no one really ends up giving a shit. It's just in the content creation world, everyone expects that we're all going to be these pillars of morality. For the most part, I think people try to be relatively moral, but sometimes things go awry. However, I will say that a lot of this looks like an awful lot of clout chasing. At the same time, though, there is an awful lot of stuff going on that seems as though an eyebrow, at best, needs to be raised. Back in 2020, during one of Dr. Disrespect's stream in the summer of 2020, he randomly ended up checking his cell phone for a message, and then turned to his audience and ended up saying this.
Who is going to be looking?
We'll get
really, like I said, we don't really know some of the.
Yeah,
we'll get through this Champions Clip. I know it's a tough.
Because I don't know this one well.
Life's weird right now.
It did.
We'll get through this, okay? And
Hey, Christopher.
Dun dun dun! You better not taunt me. How dare you?
fuck.
Now, nearly immediately following that stream, Dr. Disrespect was banned from Twitch's entire platform, which, as part of their TOS, meant that anyone that was streaming on Twitch also would be unable to play video games while live with the doc. Because Twitch's rules were if you streamed with someone that had been banned from the platform, you too would also end up catching a ban from that platform. And all of this was extremely cryptic. Doc didn't give any details, Twitch wasn't talking, no one was saying anything. At the time of Doc's ban, Doc was at the peak, the pinnacle of his game. He was arguably the most famous content creator. Between him and Ninja, Tyler Blevins, they were arguably the most famous content creators on the whole of the platform. And this was right around the time where everything was starting to go into lockdown because of COVID. So at the point in time when more people were watching live content streaming than had ever happened before, in a record growth year for that of Twitch, with the person like Doc at the head of it being one of the figureheads, if not the face of the entire platform, for Twitch to suddenly ban him from the platform, everyone assumed that it must be pretty major. And there were tons of rumors. There were rumors about him having cheated on his wife again. There were rumors that he cheated on his wife with an executive at Twitch. There were rumors that there was a bidding war and he was lying to Twitch about money so that Twitch would make their contract bigger and fatter. All of those things, of course, were unsubstantiated and literally just rumor. And no one let on. And sometime later, Doc even filed a lawsuit against Twitch alleging that they were in breach of contract for not paying him out the contract funds that he was owed when they fired him.
But a lot of people ask me, do you know the reason? Yeah, I do know the reason why now. I've known for months now the reason why. And I'll just say this right now, champs. There's a reason why we're suing the fuck out of them. Okay? I don't know how else to put it.
And Twitch countersued, and eventually they ended up coming to some agreement on the outside, where Doc ended up writing a tweet saying that there was no admittance of wrongdoing from either party. For whatever reason, everyone inside of Twitch and outside of Twitch that may have known something, including Doc's team, were all keeping their mouths very, very, very sealed. Almost immediately following Dr. Disrespect's ban on Twitch, Discord also ended up taking action. Now, Discord and Twitch have nothing to do with each other. There's no reason why Discord needed to ban anyone from their partner program unless they found reason to do so. But they stated that Discord partners must abide by their code of conduct, and when violations occur, we take the appropriate action. Now, those two things may not be correlated, or maybe they are. No one really knows, and Discord failed to elaborate. Very soon after Doc's ban, Rod Breslau, otherwise known as Slasher, former esports pro and now turned journalist, said, "Look, for several hours now, I've been told from credible sources the reason Dr. Disrespect has been banned. However, due to the importance and sensitivity around the subject, I have refrained from going in on it. I don't feel comfortable with it currently." And with the exception of the random tweet that would sometimes end up coming out, kind of like Puxatawny Phil popping his head out of the ground looking for his shadow on Groundhog Day, for the most part, everything remained incredibly quiet. Until about 2 months ago, where Destiny was doing a podcast that Slasher happened to be on, and Slasher said this.
Long career. Surely my would.
Dan, it's been a long time.
Please tell us.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's so long that the person involved is probably okay now.
My memory is really bad because this was like 2 years ago, and I was in Outpost buying a minicopter, and I remember someone saying Dr. Disrespect got banned from Twitch because he was messaging underage girls on Twitch.
Why he said that?
Wait, what?
Now that is a crazy, crazy allegation. Especially if you're saying that you heard it talking to someone randomly inside of a video game. About 3 days ago, a guy by the name of Cody Connors, who back in 2020 was the account director of strategic partnerships at Twitch, he actually held a pretty high up position, wrote a tweet seemingly out of the blue that said he got banned because got caught sexting a minor in the then existing Twitch Whispers product. He was trying to meet up with her at TwitchCon. The powers that be could read in plain text. Case closed, gang. Just so that we're all on the same page, this is nearly 4 years to the day that Doc got banned from Twitch. So Cody more or less ends up openly accusing Doc, saying he was more or less doing some pedo shit. To that respect, other guys in gaming journalism that have been relatively well-known names like Nathan Grayson, Paul Tassi, and Rod Breslau, Slasher, then ended up writing a tweet that said, "I didn't lie." Even Zachary Diaz, someone that was a former Twitch executive, wrote, "So glad it's finally out there." And then we have an article from The Verge where they cite one former Twitch employee who asked to remain anonymous, citing the potential risk to their career, told The Verge that Beam had used Whispers, Twitch's now defunct messaging system, to exchange messages with a minor and initiate a conversation about meeting up at TwitchCon. The employee worked on Twitch's trust and safety team at the time of the ban in 2020. It seems as though just about every single person that was a higher up at Twitch at one point or another in the past that had been around back in 2020 all literally ended up saying the same thing. In fact, not a single former Twitch employee that would have had knowledge of something like this going on ended up coming back and saying that it never happened. No one, not one person, no journalist either, has said this. Now, they don't have any proof, but all of them say that they knew that this was going on, or they knew about it, or they knew that it had happened, or it was believed that it had happened. Hey guys, hi, hello. Morning after editor Onepeg here working away on the video, and I was watching this back kind of like as a final edit, and something about this is irking me a little bit. At this point, we know that Twitch, if any of this is true, and I'm not saying that it is because, again, we don't have proof. If this is true, then it becomes a question of vested interest. What is in the best interest of the parties involved? Naturally, again, if this is true, Doc obviously has a vested interest in this because word of this getting out would ruin him. It would end his career. He would never be able to show his face in public ever again because he would forever be publicly labeled as a pedophile, even in the court of public opinion. And I'm not saying that's necessarily fair because he would have to then be convicted of some type of a crime, but you know how people are. Regardless of which, I'm one of those people that believes that pedophiles deserve all of the negative treatment that they get. And then some. They're a blemish on humanity, and they should be treated as such. But again, I'm not saying that Doc is. In the case of Twitch, their vested interest would be to keep this under wraps because they don't want to be viewed as a platform that allows pedophiles to thrive. And not for nothing, but of the tens of millions plus worth of people that view Twitch on a monthly basis, statistically speaking, nationwide in the United States, for instance, 300 in every 100,000 people. So in this case, statistically speaking, there are sexual predators that exist on Twitch. There's also an awful lot of kids. A huge subsection of the viewer base of Twitch are kids that are into video games. We know that to be true. That's not a secret. So naturally, the Trust and Safety Division of Twitch needs to do their utmost to make sure that kids aren't going to end up being preyed upon. Of course, you would want to make sure that that was a thing. So if they allowed Doc through arbitration, ended up paying him out the remainder of his contract, no party admitting any wrongdoing and whatnot, how many times has anyone else in the platform gotten to be at some level of popularity, left the platform because Twitch banned them without any type of public announcement whatsoever, and ended up having a situation like this occur? If the answer is a lot, then we have a serious problem. And honestly, the cathedral needs to burn to the ground. If those things are true, that also ends up coming at a detriment to guys like me. People that don't do this kind of shit and end up just wanting to be people that entertain others. We end up being like business-related victims of an enterprise that could not keep the people that were involved, especially minors on the platform, safe. That's a problem. If their vested interest in this is trying to save face so that the platform doesn't be made to look worse in the eyes of would-be advertisers, that's an issue. A huge issue. All of that seems to pale in comparison to Dr. Disrespect's response. And then the follow-up from his own company. Now, Cody Connors, though, is no saint because he ended up using the clout that could be derived from the ban rumor to try and sell tickets for his band in 2023 touring the northeastern U.S., stating, listen, if all 3 dates sell out, I'll tell you why he got banned back in June 13th of 2023. And then on December 1st of 2023, ended up sending gamer friends, if you're on the East Coast, you should come to one of these shows. Slasher is coming to the New York date. That's a 500-person room, and we're like 70% on pre-sale. I always act out around Rod. If that show sells out, I'll 100% explain why we banned him during the set. Which then leads everyone to believe that when he ended up writing the tweet that he did nothing more than try to chase clout to drum up stuff, since the tweets that he had been writing about his music production and whatnot didn't really seem to be going anywhere. So why not write something that looks like it would be viral? Send a giant wave through that of Twitter and the entire internet at large to try and drum up some attention for your own Twitter presence. Jake Lucky ended up writing a tweet, more or less paraphrasing what Cody Connors had said, and then Doc responded to Jake. Jake, seriously, I get it. It's a hot topic, but this has been settled. No wrongdoing was acknowledged, and they paid out the whole contract. Now, there are a couple of different schools of thought, primary ones, when it comes to this statement. There are people that believe that this is him saying that he didn't actually do anything. And then there are those people that believe that he's just saying that there wasn't any admittance of anything being done wrong, meaning neither party was willing to budge. And when he's talking about either party, he's talking about him versus Twitch. Most people didn't feel like this was enough. The way that he had worded this wasn't adequate. So then a couple of days ago in the afternoon, he said, listen, I'm obviously tied to legal obligations from the settlement with Twitch, but I needed to say what I can since this is the effing internet. I didn't do anything wrong. All this has been probed and settled. Nothing illegal. No wrongdoing was found, and I was paid. Elden Ring Monday. The main criticism from a lot of people here, and I can't believe that I'm about to quote Keemstar, but Keemstar brought up a good point. Why don't you just say, I was not talking to a minor trying to meet up with her at TwitchCon like what was alleged? He didn't actually say that. He talked kind of around it and said that there wasn't anything illegal being done and no wrongdoing was found. Now again, there are people that think that this is him saying that I didn't do anything wrong, game, set, match, etc., etc. And yet still, though, there are those, like Keemstar, for instance, that were not satisfied. And that brings us to today. Dr. Disrespect started his Elden Ring stream earlier this morning and then ended up looking at his cell phone. And then suddenly his mood changed.
You know how we run things here.
Toward the end of his stream, he ended up basically talking about how he felt fatigued. And I think I'm just going to let him do the talking from here.
I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little fatigued. We came in here, champs. We came in here. High energy. But I'm telling you, man, I'm just feeling fatigued. Feeling a little burnt out. Yeah, but I appreciate you guys showing up. But I am serious when I say I'm feeling a little fatigued, you know? When shit like this happens over the weekend, and it just kind of, it's like how many times can I I don't like I'm actually tired of being on social media, but I'm just feeling burnt out, you know? I came into this, when did we start streaming, champs? 2015, 16? Been doing this since 2009. Over the years, it's just gotten, it's been drained out of me. Maybe it's time to start something new, something different. I did have a sort of a planned vacation coming up, and I think I might just extend that starting today. And to be honest, I don't know how long, you know, I know where my vacacion, how long my vacation is, but you know, maybe I extend that. When I say step away, I'm gonna have to relay this to the Midnight Society, but maybe I step away from there too. Just completely remove myself from the scene. It's time to drive into the sunset, says Swervin. Oof, man, I like your style. It might be time to drive in the sunset, champs.
Remember that he mentioned maybe taking a step back from Midnight Society. Well, 2 days ago at 1:20 in the morning, Robert Bowling, the head of studio, known as 402 on Twitter, the head of studio, wrote, "I'm now aware and am dealing with it," which sounds ominous, but really it just meant that he was aware and he was dealing with it. He was trying to get to the bottom of it. But then almost immediately after the end of Dr. Disrespect's stream, 12 a.m. Studios, Midnight Society, the studio that Dr. Disrespect helped found, that studio ended up writing this. On Friday evening, we became aware of an allegation against one of our co-founders, Guy Beam, aka Dr. Disrespect. We assumed his innocence and began speaking with parties involved. And I want to read that again. We assumed his innocence and began speaking with parties involved. And in order to maintain our principles and standards as a studio and individuals, we needed to act. For this reason, we are terminating our relationship with Guy Beam immediately. While these facts are difficult to hear and even more difficult to accept, it is our duty to act with dignity on behalf of all individuals involved, especially the 55 developers and families we have employed, along with our community of players. Notice that Midnight Society, when they made this statement, they went out of their way to say that they presumed his innocence before they went into that. They don't have to do that. They're a private corporation. They don't have to presume anything. This isn't a court of law. So the fact that they said that they went out of their way and presumed innocence, first of all, is actually kind of huge. The second piece of this, by saying that they talked to the parties involved and decided to terminate him, is also a pretty big piece of wording. Because they didn't say that Guy and them ended up working together and came to an amicable decision to part ways. They didn't use any kind of soft language. They said that they terminated him. And if you are Midnight Society, and if Doc is more or less the face, the marketing, even the production value of that game, if you are a game that basically is Doc personified, and then you decide that you're going to cut Doc out of your game, that is more or less a death rattle in waiting for a game like Dead Drop. So knowing that full well, that 12 a.m. Studios would likely end up being in deep water when it came to the gaming public in general wanting to buy that game or not, and then ultimately deciding that the lesser of two evils was to fire him anyway, that is pretty bad. And again, I want to reiterate, I know that I have said this several times, that there isn't actually any proof that any of us have seen. But that doesn't mean that we're owed it either. And in the case of Midnight Society, they don't have to show it to us. The company ended up making the decision that they made. And the unfortunate reality is here that we are not owed anything. All we are able to work with is what we are being shown. So In this case, I think that the best course of action is to leave it up to all of you. Now that you have seen what I believe to at least be the full and encompassing story, I leave you guys to make the decisions that you want to make. Either you believe that Doc is innocent of all of this, or you believe that this paints a really bad picture for Doc and or Guy Beam. Guy is taking a bit of a hiatus away from content creation and social media in general, and it's likely we will not see him for quite a while. If ever again. After all, he did say a drive off into the sunset sounded like a good idea. Perhaps this is the end of the Dr. Disrespect story. Unfortunately, it seems a bit tarnished versus what it was that we had known him for up until this point. All of the blemishes on his career, of course, notwithstanding. If the need for a follow-up story for this ends up needing it, I will be sure to provide you one. So maybe consider subbing the channel. That would be awesome. Otherwise, I suppose I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for coming and checking it out. Thank you for lending me your eyeballs, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.